I said, no, they don't. He said, what should we do? I said, lunch. Lunch first, weapons later. And it turned out, when they had lunch, it wasn't about weapons at all. The terrorists were perfectly willing to give back their weapons. What they wanted was jobs, a political party, witness protection program, and amnesty. And so until they discussed their perceptions, they were going off in the wrong direction. Second, Edwards Scientific. A couple of years before that, I was asked by a client of mine in Philadelphia to negotiate a deal with Edwards Scientific. It's in Irvine, California. It's the largest heart valve maker in the world. And my client was a microsurgery device maker that wanted to license this device to them. And they had been dancing around for a year, not getting anywhere. So my client asked me to get involved. And I said, well, call up their business development team and ask if they wouldn't mind a professional negotiator to show up. They were okay with it. They called me. I went out to Irvine, California. I sat with them. There were 3 of them and 1 of me. And the first thing I said is, here's a copy of my book, which you're all going to get, a little wallet card with the model on it. And I said, without telling each other what's in our bank accounts, why don't we try this model? What do we have to lose? Well, it took us 2 hours to get a term sheet. Everyone was happy. I went back to Philadelphia. We then gave the term sheet to the lawyers for both sides, and in the next 2 months, the lawyers for both sides completely destroyed the deal. There was no deal to do. Business development team of Edwards called me a second time. They said, come out again, we got a lawyer problem. So I went out to Irvine again, the 4 of us sat together, and we fixed the lawyer problem. And a month later, we had a deal ready to sign. The night before the deal was supposed to be signed, some vice president of Edwards decided that he didn't get enough credit for the deal, and he changed half of the major terms. The business development team of Edwards called me a 3rd time. They said, come out again, we have a vice president problem. So I went out again, the 4 of us sat together, and we thought to ourselves, what emotional payments can we give this guy like credit for the deal to go along with the deal? We did, he did, and we did $1 billion deal that we never could have done otherwise by using the same process. This is a transparent process. A year later, J.P. Morgan, the major U.S. investment bank, brought 6 executives of Chinese Agricultural Bank to New York to learn this model with them, and as a result, they got along a lot better. Again, transparency. That doesn't mean you have to tell people all your bank account information, but it does mean that the same process is useful. Tacoma, Washington, city in the U.S., they had so many worker problems, so many union problems, that for 20 years, 16% of the workforce called in sick every day. You know what that cost? It took less than a day of using this model for the city manager and head of the union to start talking to each other. Now, President Xi of China, when he was the head of a province in China a while ago, that province had a sister city in the U.S., and that city was Tacoma, Washington. President Xi, when he was a younger man, actually stayed at people's houses in Tacoma when he went to visit. Why aren't we using that in the current U.S. and China negotiations? There's plenty of things to use in terms of people's perceptions. It's all out there. We just have to notice it. I do a lot of work for the military in terms of negotiation results and advice. It turns out that the military really wants negotiation advice. For them, guns and killing is a last resort because they have seen the results on the battlefield. They'd rather negotiate with people. And the U.S. military has found out that if they make connections, personal connections with tribal leaders in Afghanistan, the tribal leaders will tell them where the enemy is and where the bombs are buried in the road, and fewer people die. Military negotiates with the chain of command. They negotiate to buy cars. They negotiate with their spouses to go on deployment. They negotiate with the ambassador of their country in foreign countries to let them do operations. Many, many negotiations for the military. I have found that of all the people that I've taught, the military in various countries are the most interested in negotiation. That, of course, is one of the other counterintuitive things that we learn about negotiation, where you pay some attention to this very important topic. Now I want to talk about mistakes that destroy value, how they destroy value, and what to do about them. The most common tactic, or I should say strategy, in all of negotiation around the world is using power and leverage. And it's terrible. All of you use it. I see it on TV. How do we get more leverage? The problem with it is, number one, when you push people, when you use power over people, they will retaliate. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will. Whether it is terrorism, malicious obedience at work, or the kid is kicking and screaming on the floor. When they retaliate, it takes time and effort to deal with it, time you could have spent adding value. You're at a meeting for an hour. Twice during that meeting, somebody insults somebody else, and it takes 10 minutes each time to get back on track. Well, you've just burned a third of the time you had to add value. Part of the problem with conflict, with leverage, with power, is that it takes longer to get deals. And so it eats time and it eats value. Here is the quantitative backup for the model. The people on the left make 4 times as much as the people on the right. Twice as many deals, with each deal getting twice as much. Look at the difference at how the people on the left and the people on the right treat other people. People on the right irritate, insult, threaten, blame other people 3 to 4 times more, and they generate half to a third as many good ideas. And so maybe it looks good on television, maybe it feels good, but over time it produces less value and you don't even realize it. There's so much interpersonal conflict in France compared to Sweden that unemployment is 8% higher than it needs to be, and gross national product is 5% lower. That equals the entire total of the wine and tourism industries thrown out every year. So it's a huge penalty on national economies. Now, China has a lot of internal trust. The problem China has is that there's not enough knowledge of what to do with that trust, of what tools to use in negotiating with people, and that's why people like me are here. The next thing that happens when people don't trust each other or they don't know the right negotiation tools is the second one. People withhold their ideas, and over an entire society, innovation drops. So here is a table of innovation and innovation growth in various countries. South Korea is the most innovative country in the world, and it's growing the fastest innovation. Japan is pretty good. Taiwan is pretty good. Germany, United States is lower. Look how far down China is. It's about where the European Union is. Now, China has been growing very, very rapidly, but it's not enough. As you know, China has depended on inexpensive labor for a while that has given it great resources, but that's not enough anymore. It's being underpriced by other countries, and so what you need to do is you've got to get more innovative. And in fact, China has come up with lots of innovation with Tencent and Baidu and a lot of other companies here, but that is, in my view, a small fraction of what's needed. It's some people at the top, ordinary people in their education, in the way they approach the world, need to be thinking more innovatively. Here is the chart of trust. It's in English, but let me explain it. China's up there at number 2 behind the Netherlands. Very good. The U.S. is down in the middle. France is way down there below Pakistan. And at the bottom, Peru, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Trinidad, Tobago. And so trust has a direct result on economic growth. And of course, China, very well positioned in trust, not positioned enough on the skills to implement